Hey, welcome to Tune In Tuesday. I am Dom, the Uncaged Mama. I am here to talk about autism acceptance. And so the title today is Beyond Awareness. Autism Acceptance starts here. So thank you for joining me. April is Autism Awareness Month, and and also Autism Acceptance Month. So welcome. I want to shift from autism awareness to acceptance because, accept awareness sees and acceptance respects and makes space for. And so uh, this is near and dear to my heart because I'm an autism mama. And so um, I'm going to give some definitions, share a little bit of my personal story, talk about signs to look for, offer real life support, and then also give 10 ways to move from tolerance to true inclusion. If you see me looking off, I've got notes here to keep me on track. So um, feel free to comment where you're from, where you're watching from, tag people, share people. I know I've been on here and people have been coming on and off, and no one was like, hey, Dom, you were muted for 15 minutes. So feel free to interact and engage with me, ask questions. I'm not an expert. I'm an autism mom and an advocate, and I think this is just like super important. So happy to talk about this on April 1st. So what is autism? The definition is autism spectrum disorder is a neurodevelopmental condition that affects how a person communicates, interacts socially, processes sensory input, and experiences the world. It's lifelong and the spectrum is wide. And so the biggest thing to get out of this definition is there's no one way that autism looks, and every autistic person is different. That is super, super, super important. Some signs of autism could include speech delays or advanced language, difficulty with social cues or eye contact, sensory sensitivities, sound, textures, food, temperatures, things like that, fabrics, even. They may have repetitive behaviors or special interests, so like a really deep interest in something. And then also trouble adapting to change or transitions. And so a person with the diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder also may not have all of those things. You may not see all of those things or notice all of those things, right? So just want to like share that as well. So here are some co-occurring conditions or some things a person might have in addition to autism spectrum disorder. So they may also have ADHD, sensory processing disorder, anxiety or OCD, an intellectual disability in some people, not all, language processing delays, and epilepsy or sleep issues. There could also be a mixed misdiagnosis or even confusion with some of these things. So, trauma responses. Somebody might be like, oh, that's a trauma response. Or attachment disorder, or a person might actually have like a trauma response or an attachment disorder and not autism. Social anxiety, language disorders, or personality differences. And this is especially shown in women and girls with autism. So, this is why it's important to seek a professional evaluation because autism doesn't always show up or present the way people expect. And I want people to think about like, what do you expect? Like, I want you to get away from autism having a look because it doesn't. And just want to drive home again that it looks different in everyone. I also believe that people with autism are like the most brilliant minds on the planet. I think they're like the most brilliant folks out here, miles ahead of just like typical, right? Like what you would say is like highly intelligent. I'm like, they are truly geniuses. And you see it, like you see that brilliant from childhood. And so that's why I think acceptance matters and making space. Because they're going to change the world. Thoroughly convinced. My child, along with others, like are literally going to solve the world's problems. Just because of like how they see the world, how they interact with the world, how they view the world, and how they think and maneuver. So I'll share a quick story of my journey as a mom of an autistic child. I started to notice like sensory issues, right? Like when my son was about 10 months old, he was interested in all kinds of foods, all textures of foods. He would literally take the food off your plate. If you know him, you know. And he wasn't ever really interested in sweets. So like not really like cake and candy and things like that. But everything else pretty much. It was up for grabs and up for him to try. And then there was a day where all of a sudden he just wanted his bottle. And he was a little sick then. Like at that time, it was the fall, like his first fall season, right? And so he had a little cold. So I'm like, well, I'm sure like his formula and stuff is comforting. So like it's cool, except he never really wanted to go back to solid foods and like would throw a tantrum if you even tried to offer it. And so I'm like, okay. I noticed he went to his doctor appointment. He had lost weight, and so I'm like, he's got to get nutrition. So I started giving him smoothies, and I would blend up like soups and things like in that he could have through his sippy cup to make sure he was still getting nutrition. But I was monitoring that along with also every time there was an appointment, we had to kind of fill out this developmental survey. What milestones is he meeting? And there were some things he had just never met, like if he heard the sound of a siren, he would not turn towards it ever. He struggled with attachment. Like I could not leave him to go to the bathroom or anything like that. Or like if he saw my mom and she did not like immediately stop, if she went and put her stuff down somewhere out of sight, like he just struggled with it. Full on meltdown. He did not sleep well, and he was having night terrors. Never made eye contact. And he was like very, very interested in wheels, leaves, and rocks. The amount of leaves and rocks in my garage 2 years later is wild. And also, he never played with toys appropriately. Like when you looked at him, he was very mechanical and scientific about things he engaged with. So it was like he was trying to see inside of it and see how it works. So as soon as he got something, he's like flipping it over. He's trying to see. He was convinced that like something is inside of it or under it. If it had wheels, he was all into the wheels portion and nothing else. And he wasn't trying to like roll it. He liked to see the wheel spin. And so I tracked all those things and then I had a conversation with his doctor because for me, I'm like, I'm obviously not teaching him correctly. Like he's sort of missing these milestones. And so I actually want education to help him. But I realized like some of these things became more pronounced as he got closer to about 16 months. And I'm like, I'm going to keep monitoring this, but I'm going to have more conversations with his doctor. Around 19 months, 20 months, took it into my own hands, started doing my own research because the doctor at that point, and he's a great doctor, by the way, was like, oh, like he'll probably grow out of it. If we do these things, he'll grow out of it. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I know what I see at home and I'm probably not communicating it well at the doctor's appointments, but I need to advocate for him to get this checked out. So I went on my own, found out that like I can get him evaluated on my own, made sure pediatrician got the reports and was looped in. And he was about 22 months when he got the autism diagnosis. It got officially on paper like right before his second birthday, but we knew about 2 months beforehand that he had autism spectrum disorder and it was level 3, which is pretty severe. And so I got him supports, set up with ABA therapy, but I felt a lot of guilt at first and a lot of shame. And then, you know, how I've grown through that process is like shedding that. Like, I'm actually not sorry that he has autism. I'm not sorry about being his mother. I think he's brilliant. He's super smart. He's super funny. He can, even though he does not speak in sentences, he communicates very well. You know exactly what he wants when he wants it. And if he gets a little frustrated, like he will figure out a way to like get you to understand. But he's a joy, right? And so I think being willing to learn helped me, and also recognizing that like autism spectrum disorder looks different in everybody was something I grounded myself in. And one thing that my family says is we really enjoy like paying attention to him and like trying to see the world through his eyes. And we still can't exactly, but just like watching him and like sort of like processing for ourselves, like, oh, wow, that's how he was like looking at that. That's how he was seeing that is really cool, actually. That's why I'm like, he's gonna be a part of changing the world, and so are a lot of people with autism if we make space and accept them and respect them and include them and give them access to things and allow them to get what they need to shine. And so autism isn't something to be fixed. There's nothing broken. There's nothing wrong with him. People will say that there's nothing wrong with him. I never said there was anything wrong with him. There's not anything wrong with people with autism. So I want y'all to like watch that in your language and be careful about that, because there's nothing wrong. There's nothing to be fixed. There is nothing missing. It's something to be understood and honored. It is a difference, and we're all different. Nobody's exactly the same, not even if you're a twin, right? If you're a multiple, you're not the same. And so we all have our own unique ways of seeing the world, of experiencing the world. There are a lot of things I can relate to. Like, I can relate to the sensory overload and the overwhelm. I can relate to not liking different textures. My mom will tell you that. Like my grandma could tell you that, right? Like there are things I did not want to eat. I don't want to eat. People think the way that I eat, like the method in which I eat, is weird, right? Like I struggle to slow my mind down so I can rest. Like I'm constantly on the go, especially up here. And so we're all different, right? And so there are some things where I'm like, yeah, dude, I totally get it. I get it. I get it, buddy. Like, and I know that he understands a lot more than I think a lot of people give him credit for, because when it's just the two of us hanging out and I'm making up a story or I'm making up a song and I'm like talking to him, he's the look in his eyes, he's like he shakes his head and he like giggles at me. He's like, "Mom," like it's very much like, "Mom, you are goofy as heck." And I'm like, "Yep, yep, 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 yep." And he'll give me a little hug or like a little like he rubs his nose up against my cheek, and he'll turn over and go to bed, or he'll go and do his own thing. Or with his sister, he looks at her. The way he looks at her is hilarious. Because he looks at her like, "Girl, why do you eat that? Like, why you're so easily amused?" Or I think he looks at us like, "Y'all are so easily impressed." Like, oh my gosh, that's so basic, right? Because in his brain, I'm sure he thinks like I am solving like quantum physics puzzles, like and like problems up in my head, and y'all are impressed that this girl just said like green in Spanish. Oh my god. So I'm sure I'm sure he's like, "Girl, please." But at the same time, like he also his 2-year-old sister, he's like trying to find what she's watching. Like he's also like positively influenced like by what she is doing, and he's like intrigued about like why she's intrigued about certain things. And so it's just really cool to be able to see. It's cool. Like when he bends down, one thing I'll never understand about him specifically, he has like supervision. I don't have that. I can barely see y'all right now with these contacts in. Like, not a joke. And he can see things that on people's carpet and floors. I'm like, how did you know that was there? Or like outside in the grass, he would like find things. I'm like, what the heck? Like, how did you see that? Like, so all kinds of superpowers. So I could talk about him all day, and I'm sure other parents of kids with autism can do the same thing. So there are challenges, and there's lots to learn and lots to figure out. It's not easy, but being a parent in general is not easy. So here are some things that you can do if you suspect autism, right? Or you're just curious. Um, Start with documentation. Pay attention to behaviors and patterns and sensitivities that you're noticing, and just like you can make notes in your phone or in a notebook, or even using there are apps out there, right, where you can track milestones, not even ones that you have to pay for. I believe the CDC should still have one, and you can just it's like a checkbox, and you can monitor like over time um, what things you're noticing, and then even ask questions of childcare providers, like see what they've noticed. Friends, family who are interacting, like, "Hey, have you noticed that?" And you don't have to dig any deeper. Just if people are like, "Why?" You're like, "I'm just asking because other people spend time with with the child, and I'm just noticing. Um, I just want to see what other people see, right?" That's always helpful, because I think in casual conversation, people would bring stuff up. Like my mom would bring stuff up, or my grandma would be on video chat and bring things up when we talk to her. And it's like, okay, like let me make note of that. And then talk to your pediatrician about it. You can ask for a referral to a developmental pediatrician or a psychologist. Um, you could reach out to an ABA testing center. That's what I did. Um, for the evaluation, and they'll do the evaluation typically for free, and go from there. You can also explore if your child is school aged. There are public schools that are required actually to evaluate children. So it's under child find, and so you can speak with the counselor on site at the school, or connect with the child's teacher or staff at the school to get evaluations there. You can have private testing, of course. I do want everyone to remember the like emotional, financial, and like logistical costs of all of these things, by the way. But you can look for that, because sometimes the stuff is costly and hard to access, or even trying to figure out who is the correct person can be tough. And also advocacy wears on you. Like the amount of times like I said, we have a great pediatrician, but the amount of times I had to keep saying like, no, 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 I really want us to look into this, um, was more than I would have liked. And so you know your child better than someone who is seeing them once every few months or once a year. And so that advocacy is going to matter. And then adults, there are actually assessments for adults. So a primary care provider, a psychologist who specializes in adult neurodiversity, they're out there. There's also like self tests that you can do to get you started. And I would say adults like again, just like you would sort of pay attention with a child, like asking people around you what are things that they may or may not notice. Um, and so not every family also is going to qualify for state services, insurance coverage, or school-based supports. And so like getting a diagnosis is not the same as getting help. So that's part of this like broken system that we're in that needs to be fixed. But it's the truth that many families live with. Like I get a diagnosis, but like getting the help that I need is the next step, and it can be a barrier. And so I want to acknowledge that. The amount of times that I've heard what my child should be able to get, that I'm like, right, but he doesn't. And he doesn't qualify, or we don't qualify as a family, or that's not a thing in my state or in my county. Or navigating online systems, like I'm pretty savvy. I've struggled. like like there are some of these websites that will take you in a circle, and not move you along to what you need. And so there may be some free resources and community resources out there, but there also could be a lot of wait lists for things because there is limited funding. And so just know that the system is broken. I don't want you all to give up. I think making space for it on the platform that I have is something that I want to do, to at least let you know that like I see you, I hear you, I understand, and if I can help you navigate, truly, I will. And we'll have some resources here in just a minute after I talk about 10 ways to move from tolerance to acceptance. I think outside of everything else I've discussed, which is super important, this might be the most important part. This is the part that I'm really passionate about. This is the part that is probably going to be made into the reels and the shorts and all of that. So I'm good with that. So I have 10 things that I want to share that move us from tolerance to acceptance. So first, do not judge a meltdown. Um, Children screaming in public is not always misbehaving. My children had a meltdown in Walmart one day, and I still don't know why. But if you remember that, like, autism is like sensory, there are like sensory processing. There could be like, there's like a lot of sensitivities to things, smells, tastes, sounds, sights, like all those things. All that's going on in a grocery store, right? And so, to the best of my ability, right, like stopping a meltdown, like, right, like it's tough. And so, just like, I don't know what's going on. I'm looking in the comments, sorry. But just saying like that child is misbehaving or judging um, is hard. And so I don't want you to do that. Like I want you to have some compassion. Let a mom or a dad, aunt or uncle, like give them like a smile, right? And let them know that you see them, that you hear them, that you understand when you see a meltdown, because it may not always be misbehaving. And sometimes even like touching them in that moment is too much. It like adds to the sensory overload and the overwhelm. And so when that's happened to me, I try to calm myself in that moment and try to meet the need. And sometimes we just leave. So, um, you know, that's a thing. Um, Second thing is stop saying he or she doesn't look autistic. They don't look autistic. Autism doesn't have a look. Autism doesn't have a look. So throw it away. Learn instead of labeling. Uh, Different communication, stimming, or silence is not weird. Um, Everyone's different, and I would love a world where people with autism are able to stim like freely to be able to calm themselves. And so, um, you know, just be mindful of that, and understand that there are people with autism who don't speak at all. And so when someone says nonverbal, like they mean that they're like, there's none of that. There's no babbling. Um, there's none of that. And then you might have someone like my son who babbles. and it's sort of pre-verbal. Like sometimes he says words, but it may not necessarily be to communicate something. Regardless, they can communicate. Non-verbal communication is a thing. We all do that, and so just be mindful of that. Also, there's nothing wrong with people with autism. We hear that a lot. Like I'm like there's not there they don't look like there's anything wrong with them, or there's nothing wrong with them. No, there isn't anything wrong with them. They just have different needs, and different ways of seeing and experiencing the world. So, um, you know, keep that in mind. Ask how you can support. Like, don't assume help means speaking for someone. They may need something else to support, right? They may need a minute. One way to move to acceptance, by the way, is like, if which is my next point, like respect sensory needs. When people are like, I need a minute, I they they want to limit sounds and lights. They don't want certain fabrics. They don't want to try different food textures. Like all those things can cause overwhelm. So like respect people's boundaries on that and respect people's different needs. And I think if you do that in general, we could be better for that. And not making fun of people for those things. Invite, don't exclude. So, don't assume autistic kids or adults don't want to be a part of things. They do. Uh, Also, assume that parents of kids with autism don't want to do things. And I would say, in general, by the way, like it, just try not to exclude, like invite your friends who are parents to things because a lot of times people assume we don't want to or can't do something. And I think that that is the same for people with autism. Like they don't get invited. People act like they can't do things. And, my child was in Kid Strong. I know kids with autism who are dancers and singers and in plays and they're writers and they create music and they're teachers and they do all their speaker, like keynote speakers and things, so many things, right? And so don't limit, just invite. Provide options and not ultimatums. Like let them lead when it comes to eye contact and hugs and conversation. Sometimes they need to learn why those things are appropriate, but also they don't always have to do it. Like, yeah, I don't know. I think that's like pretty straightforward. Don't force normal. They're not broken, they're different. And so, what actually is normal? What is regular? There are systems set up for like compliance and things like that, but their needs are different. And so, getting to know people as individuals and what they need and what they like and don't like is just super helpful. And it helps people feel like they're included and they belong and they get to be themselves. Check your tone. So, pity, sarcasm, or assumptions can actually cause real harm. So just be careful with that. We don't want to put shame on folks. Like they will pick up on that, and that's how people start to mask and not show a lot of things. And then all of a sudden, people are like shocked when they find out someone has autism or someone's really struggling, even mentally, right? Because they couldn't be themselves because of the pity and the shame and the assumptions that people put on them. And then lastly, like advocate in your circles, like call out ableism, um, make your church or school or business more inclusive. Just like think about these things. I would also say like do some like instead of doom scrolling, right? You can take a look at the hashtag online actually autistic and you will hear from people with autism themselves. You can be also inclusive by there's this really cool company, and I should have had the name before I got on here, but it is ran and staffed by people with autism. And so your company is making these like custom branded gifts and things like that. Use them, right? It's a way for people with autism to be employed. To do something they're really passionate about and to like do amazing work. But there's more companies out there. There are more people out there with autism who work, who create, who teach, who do all sorts of really cool things just like everyone else. And so amplify their voices instead of feeling like you need to go create an organization or a new fundraiser or something like that. And then support the families of kids with autism. There are, like I said, these things are costly. It is not cheap to raise children, period. But when we're talking about other special needs like special eating, therapies, doctor's appointments, supplements, and things like that, it gets costly. And so um, support the the businesses of folks whenever you can, like choose them, right, over maybe some larger brands that have a little bit of patience, right, for when things come in. Yeah, I buy most of my shirts from two different autism mamas, which is great, right? Like, they are my top choice, point blank, period. And as I continue to find like parents of kids with special needs who have things, like that's who I will choose for a lot of my products. And so I think that that's something that's a really easy shift to make. So here are some trusted resources, some things that I've used. You can go back. We actually had a live stream with Impact Parents. They're an amazing organization. They have tools and coaching and workshops for raising complex kids, which is kids with neurodivergence, so ADHD, autism, even like adult children, right? And so I love Impact Parents. You can follow them. They have a summit every year. It already happened in, I believe, early February. But they are an amazing, amazing, amazing resource. Truly lovely people who are doing great work. So you can go back and look at our previous live streams and previous recordings on YouTube, and you'll find the one with Impact Parents. It was a great conversation. And again, they have great resources. Action Behavior Centers is pretty nationwide, may not be everywhere, but a great ABA therapy center. And they focus on individualized care to teach their patients about life skills, about eye contact, and like behaviors and communication, all sorts of things, how to play appropriately, maybe interacting slowly but surely with others, and all of those things. So you can also get some individualized evaluation with them as well. So check and see if there's an Action Behavior Center near you. They're pretty great. I have a great have had great experiences with them. And they also do workshops and learnings a lot to educate families. Some other places, Autism Self Advocacy Network. Look up local disability rights organizations or parent advocacy groups in your area. And then there are Medicaid waiver programs as well that you can look into for additional supports. So in the final couple minutes, I want you to think about, what does real acceptance look like in your life? What do you want real acceptance for you, like as who you are, to look like? And do you see people with autism as valuable just as they are, or as someone to be changed? If someone looked at you as someone who needed to be changed, how would that feel? Just like reflect on those things. Like, what does acceptance look like, and how would it feel if just because of how you are, someone felt like you were broken and something needed to be changed about you and you needed to fit in? So just think about that. Reflect on it. Feel free to share in the comments, but also allow that to guide you to just learn more and to speak up and be an advocate for others, and to learn to be a safe space. We can always learn and grow and be better. And so I think this is a great place to start. So that's it. I need to eat dinner and get ready for bedtime, but make sure you're following Parent Porch, like and subscribe, share, for more honest and compassionate conversations just like these and more. Check out our previous videos. Again, share this video. If it's taught you something, or it made you feel seen, or you learned something from it, share it, especially with it being Autism Acceptance Month. And then comment if you need help finding local resources, or if you're on this journey too. We'd love to connect with more autism moms, dads, and family members. So just remember, Autism Acceptance Month. It's not just a campaign, right? This is a call for us to love deeper, understand better, and show up differently every day. So don't let this just be for April. Don't let it just be for tonight. Like, let this take you through the rest of the year and forever. And like there are small ways where we can spread this and be better. So just think about that as you're out and about on a regular basis, and maybe you're getting frustrated with something you're seeing. Like, consider, like, how can I be more accepting? So thank you. Just remember, you don't have to be perfect. Just be present as a parent. And we are here for you at Parent Porch. And I will see you next